The story begins early in the morning with our male lead, Hong, waking up and preparing for school. He is strikingly handsome and well-groomed, but he has a quick temper and a rather fiery personality. At the same time, we are introduced to the female lead, a charming young girl named Yumi. She's visually appealing, with a gentle smile and expressive eyes, but her nature is innocent and somewhat naive. Today is her first day at a new school, and she hurriedly gets ready, eager not to be late. As Yumi makes her way to school, she stops at a small coffee shop and buys a cup of coffee to help wake herself up. While walking, she notices a boy in a school uniform and, wanting to strike up a conversation, steps forward. In that moment, she slips slightly, causing the coffee in her hand to spill onto another boy. Embarrassed, she quickly apologizes, but the boy is surprisingly rude and responds angrily, saying, "Get out of my way," before leaving Yumi feeling flustered and uneasy. Meanwhile, Hong walks past her without acknowledging her at all, maintaining a cool, detached demeanor. Hong's personality is the direct opposite of Yunmi's. Whereas she is naive and gentle, he is hot-tempered and intense, though undeniably attractive. Later, the story shifts to a classroom setting. The teacher enters and announces to the class that a new student has transferred and asks everyone to welcome her. Yumi enters and introduces herself, trying to appear confident despite her nervousness. At that moment, a certificate hanging on the wall falls and Yumi instinctively picks it up. The teacher instructs her to give it to the class monitor and then take a seat next to him. As it turns out, the monitor is Hong. Seeing him, Yumi recalls the earlier incident with the spilled coffee and internally notes how arrogant he seemed. She hands him the certificate and tries to sit next to him, only to discover that her chair is broken. As she attempts to sit, she falls and the other students start laughing at her expense. It becomes clear that Hong already knew the chair was broken but chose not to warn her. Embarrassed, Yumi moves to sit beside another student who reassures her. He may look intimidating, but he's actually soft-hearted underneath. Soon after, the teacher asks Yumi to enter her information into a computer to create her ID card. At that moment, another boy rushes into the office, attempting to steal a book. In his haste, a robot that Hong had made falls and breaks. The boy panics and runs away, leaving Yumi arriving just after the incident, finding the room empty. The teacher, unaware of the full circumstances, blames and punishes Yumi, despite her protests that she had nothing to do with it. The following day, one of the classmates demands that Yumi clean the classroom in her place. Unable to refuse, Yumi reluctantly grabs a broom and tidies up. After finishing, she begins writing in a notebook, unaware that it belongs to Hong. Only later does she realize her mistake and apologizes. Hong, in his typical blunt manner, scolds her. "Why are you so careless?" Yumi, indignant, replies, "What do you mean? I haven't done anything wrong." They engage in a brief, spirited argument, which marks the beginning of their playful yet tense interactions. Later, Yumi learns from Hong that the robot had actually been broken by another boy in the class. She confronts him and he admits his mistake and apologizes. Being kind-hearted, Yumi forgives him. She then observes Hong and notices that her initial impression of him as extremely hot-tempered was not entirely accurate. Hong teases her, "You saw the boy running away. Why didn't you recognize him?" She replies honestly that she hadn't seen him, prompting him to laugh and call her foolish. These early disagreements slowly evolve into gentle, playful banter, gradually building the foundation for their connection. Time passes and the school holds examinations. Yumi receives extremely low marks, only 38 points, and cannot believe it. She protests to the teacher, insisting there must have been a mistake, but the teacher scolds her instead. Upon examining the papers, Yumi realizes the exam paper is not hers. She had forgotten to write her name in the rush during the exam. She chastises herself for her carelessness but brings it to the teacher's attention. Unfortunately, despite her explanations, bureaucracy and bad luck conspire against her and the situation remains unresolved. She wonders why misfortune always seems to follow her. That evening, determined to find out the truth, Yumi sneaks into the teacher's office. Hong follows her quietly. Seeing him, she asks for help in uncovering whose paper had been mixed up with hers, adding firmly that she does not want to be called stupid again. Hong agrees, and together they enter the office, Yumi through the door, abandoning her plan to climb through the window when she notices that Hong has a key and simply opens the door. Inside, they discover who had signed their name on her paper. A security guard enters, prompting them to hide, and eventually they escape unnoticed. After returning home, Hong reflects privately, leafing through his diary and wondering why Yumi feels so familiar. A flashback reveals that in his childhood he had a best friend who shared many precious moments with him. Meanwhile, Yumi lives with her grandmother as her parents have gone abroad for work. Despite the absence of her parents, she cares deeply for her grandmother, and they share a warm, loving bond. The following day, a conflict arises involving an exam paper mix-up with a classmate named Juan. Yumi intends to reveal the truth to the teacher, but Juan is already in front of the teacher, attempting to prevent the disclosure by claiming he will be punished by his father if his results are poor. Yumi becomes anxious, understanding the difficult circumstances. Meanwhile, the teacher stresses that a relative must attend a parent-teacher meeting because of her low score. Hong is reminded by a friend to buy a gift for his parent and Yoonmi decides to accompany him. At the store, Yoonmi buys various food items, prompting Hong to remind her that they only need a gift card. After completing their shopping, they return to school. Back in class, Yoonmi is asked to put up a poster on the wall. As she reaches up, she nearly slips, but Hong catches her just in time. This creates an intimate, romantic moment as they gaze at each other. Later, as Yoonmi prepares to go home, Hong offers her a ride. She initially declines, insisting she can walk, but he notices her worry and gently inquires if she is anxious about the upcoming parent-teacher meeting. Yoonmi confesses that her family is absent and her grandmother cannot attend, leaving her stressed. Hong reassures her with calm authority, promising to handle everything. Yoonmi expresses relief, impressed with his sense of responsibility, and acknowledges his capability as a caring monitor. Hong, in his usual teasing way, tells her to quiet down, marking another playful exchange in their evolving relationship. The following day, the school held the long-anticipated parent-teacher meeting, and all students arrived accompanied by their parents. Yoonmi, feeling anxious about her own absent parents, was silently worried about how she would manage. Fortunately, Hong appeared with his mother, and her presence provided a small sense of relief to Yoonmi. With the weight of parental expectations somewhat lifted from her shoulders, she breathed a quiet sigh of gratitude and relief. After the meeting concluded, Yoonmi's expression reflected joy and relaxation, knowing she had been spared from having to explain herself to her parents or face their disappointment. As she lingered in the classroom, a close friend leaned toward her and whispered an intriguing bit of gossip. She mentioned that Hong's mother held the esteemed position of a judge and his father was a respected professor. "No wonder he's so clever and composed," her friend remarked. Then with a teasing smile she added, "And by the way, yesterday I saw you holding Hong's hand. Did he help you or is there something else going on between you two? Tell me honestly." Yoonmi's cheeks flushed crimson. Embarrassed by the question, she avoided answering and quietly slipped away, leaving the teasing comment lingering in the air. Once the school day ended, Yoonmi approached Hong with a suggestion. "Come on, let's have some juice together," she proposed, hoping to enjoy a brief peaceful moment in his company. Hong, however, was reluctant. "Drink it yourself," he replied, his tone indifferent yet mildly amused. Accepting his answer, Yoonmi nodded and poured herself a glass. Together they began to sip their drinks side by side. Yoonmi, feeling especially parched, joked, "I'm so thirsty I think I'll finish both glasses myself." Hong smirked and said, "Enough chatter. Let's go." They left the juice stand together, walking along the streets in light conversation. Out of gratitude for his earlier help and wanting to return the favor, Yoonmi invited Hong to her home that day. Upon arriving at Yoonmi's home, she introduced him to her grandmother. The elderly woman, warm and observant, greeted Hong and offered guidance. "You two should sit near the front of the class because Yoonmi has an issue with her eyesight." Yoonmi, slightly embarrassed, quickly reassured her grandmother, "Grandma, I sit in the right place now, there's no problem with my eyes." Hong prepared to leave, but her grandmother insisted he stay for dinner. "No, it'll get late." "I'll come another day," Hong attempted to decline politely. Yoonmi, aware of her grandmother's insistence, intervened, saying, "If you leave now without eating, Grandma will never let you go." Amused and slightly resigned, Hong agreed to stay. Afterward, Yoonmi led Hong to her room briefly when her grandmother called her to the kitchen. As Yoonmi left, Hong's eyes caught an old photograph on a shelf, a glimpse into Yoonmi's childhood. Before he could examine it closely, Yoonmi returned with a tray of food, unintentionally obscuring the photograph. Dinner commenced, and Hong soon discovered the food was far spicier than he had anticipated. He signaled for water, but Yoonmi, misunderstanding his gestures, panicked. Convinced that food had gotten stuck in his throat, she rushed behind him, tapping and shaking him on the back to help him expel the imaginary blockage. The scene was chaotic, comical, and utterly innocent, with Yoonmi earnestly trying to assist while Hong quietly held the water. Finally, he drank it and exclaimed, somewhat exasperated, "This is all I needed. Why all the fuss?" Realizing her mistake, Yoonmi blushed, silently scolding herself, "How could I be so silly? I should have known it was just the spice." The next day, the teacher announced the upcoming school festival, and students would need to participate in various performances. Yoonmi was selected, requiring her to attend rehearsals. She struggled with remembering her lines and repeatedly forgot them during practice, drawing frustrated comments from the group. "At this rate, we'll take a whole year to rehearse," someone complained. Hong, taking a firm stance, said to Yoonmi, "Tomorrow, come prepared. Practice on your own first." Yoonmi, overwhelmed, protested, "I told you already, I can't manage all of this." Hong, unyielding, responded, "Fine, then don't come tomorrow," leaving her feeling deeply discouraged. She muttered to herself later, "Why does he always have to treat me like this? He's such a harsh monitor." The next morning, while heading to school, Yoonmi accidentally collided with a boy who was playing basketball. She fell into a puddle, and at that moment Kong, the secondary male lead, happened to be passing by on his bicycle. He quickly dismounted and helped her out of the water, prompting introductions between them. They exchanged names, and it became clear that Kong hoped to develop a friendship as they attended the same school. Later, during a meal at a local restaurant with a friend, Yoonmi's eyes were watering. Hong, observing from afar, assumed she was sad and crying emotionally, unaware that the cause was simply the spiciness of the food. That evening, Yoonmi stayed awake, rehearsing her lines for the next day and speaking quietly to herself. "Hong, why do you always act this way toward me? I don't make mistakes on purpose," she muttered. She practiced tirelessly, determined not to err in the upcoming rehearsal. The following day, still upset over Hong's harsh words during practice, Yoonmi deliberately ignored him in class. Even after the session ended, she avoided speaking with him. Hong, frustrated, addressed her sharply, "If you're not participating, give my script to someone else." Yoonmi, annoyed, shot back, "Who said I won't participate? I will, no matter what." Their interactions were tense yet laced with mutual respect and a budding, complex friendship. During rehearsal, Yoonmi offered Hong a Coca-Cola. A classmate asked for a share, but Hong, focused and assertive, refused. The next day in class, Yoonmi fell asleep momentarily, only to be scolded by Hong. "Stupid girl, why are you sleeping during class? Don't you know you can't do two things at once?" He was referring to sleeping and studying simultaneously. Yoonmi shot back, "Smart boy, instead of constantly finding my mistakes, maybe focus on your own work." During these rehearsals, Hong secretly observed her, though Yoonmi soon caught him in the act. A playful confrontation ensued, but Hong reassured her later, draping his coat over her shoulders and explaining, "That day I said too much. Don't mind it, I just wanted you to do well." Yoonmi, slightly flustered, asked if he was apologizing, but he offered no direct answer. They walked to the bus stop together, and Yoonmi, feeling quietly pleased, reflected on his thoughtful behavior. She managed to compose herself, despite feeling nervous about portraying her role as a village girl in the upcoming performance. On stage, Yoonmi performed admirably, though misfortune intervened. Her shoe accidentally flew off near Kong, upsetting her further. The performance concluded and she apologized to her peers, realizing that her mishap could have jeopardized the group's efforts. Kong returned the shoe and other students teased her, exacerbating her embarrassment. Despite her frustration, Hong approached to console her, placing a comforting hand on her head. Before she could internalize the consolation, news arrived that Yoonmi had won the Best Popular Acting Award. Hong, delighted, teased her gently. "Silly girl, stop crying, you've performed wonderfully and received the award." Yumi's heart leapt with joy and she celebrated in an outburst of happiness, dancing and laughing. That night, as she sat quietly, she thought longingly of her childhood best friend, wishing she could meet them once again. Meanwhile, Hong, too, reflected on his memories and felt a similar pang of nostalgia. The following day introduced a new complication. Kong, mischievous and cunning, sought to manipulate Yoonmi into doing his homework, reminding her of their previous encounter. She reluctantly agreed, realizing she had little choice. Observing this, Hong became protective, quietly leaving the club in frustration. That night he reflected deeply on his feelings. He did not want anyone else to get close to Yoonmi, and he recognized that he had begun to care for her deeply. His concern was not possessive but born from a growing affection and desire to safeguard her well-being. When a classmate asked Yoonmi about the handsome boy accompanying her, Hong's anger flared, prompting him to leave abruptly. Later, he crafted a birthday card for his friend, revealing a softer, considerate side. At the same time, he browsed Yoonmi's social media, hesitating and ultimately deciding, after careful deliberation, to send her a friend request for the first time in his life. This small action marked the beginning of a significant change in their relationship, setting the stage for their evolving friendship and the blossoming of mutual understanding, trust, and subtle affection. The following day, as the school day began, Yoonmi approached Hong with a hesitant request. "Can I borrow your homework?" she asked nervously, clutching her books. Hong raised an eyebrow, his usual sharp gaze fixed on her. "If you don't have time to do your own homework, why are you doing someone else? Don't you have any sense?" he asked bluntly, his tone a mixture of irritation and concern. Yoonmi's voice trembled slightly. "Please, I really need it. If I don't do it, I'll get punished." Despite his initial reluctance, after several earnest pleas, Hong relented and handed her his homework. Though he sighed in exasperation, he couldn't resist helping her. It wasn't long before Yoonmi discovered that Kong, the mischievous classmate, didn't only make her complete his homework, he also coerced other girls into doing his assignments. Shocked by the scale of his behavior, she resolved to confront him. She found Kong in the head teacher's office, and it quickly became evident that the teacher was already aware of his tactics. When Kong noticed Yoonmi, he spoke with a hint of irritation. "Why did you have to write it in such perfect handwriting?" "Now I've been caught because of you," Yoonmi replied calmly but firmly. "Exactly, that's the point." Their exchange revealed the consequences of his actions and the subtle way Yoonmi stood up for fairness. Later, during class, Yoonmi tried to hand a birthday card to a friend. Unfortunately, the teacher noticed and became furious, demanding to see her parents. Yoonmi tried explaining the situation, but the teacher remained unyielding. Seeing the escalating tension, Hong stepped forward, taking full responsibility for the card. Sir. It was mine, he said simply. The teacher's anger dissipated and Yumi was spared any further scolding, though Hong received a minor reprimand for his honesty. Afterward, Yumi's friend whispered excitedly, "Did you see that?" Hong came to the rescue like a true hero. Yumi nodded, her heart swelling with gratitude. "Yes," she admitted softly. "He's always so kind-hearted and willing to help." Hong, overhearing the conversation, felt a quiet sense of pride, though he remained stoic. Not long after, the school announced an upcoming sports event. The students gathered to compete and a challenge arose. Before attempting a jump, Kong called out to Yumi, teasing her, "If I win, I'll drink juice with you." Hong's expression darkened at the remark, a spark of rivalry igniting between him and Kong. The two boys exchanged glances, silent yet fierce in their competition. Kong took the leap, soaring an impressive 53 meters. Yumi's eyes widened in amazement. "Wow," she breathed. "No one can surpass Kong." Hong, never one to back down, smiled faintly. "Watch me." With a controlled stride, he propelled himself forward, surpassing Kong's jump by just a single meter, winning the challenge. Yumi cheered exuberantly, calling his name loudly for all to hear while turning to Kong with a teasing, victorious remark. "You lost and Hong won. Days like this keep passing by." Time moved on, and during a chemistry class, Yumi suffered a minor accident. Hong, always attentive, rushed to her side and tended to her injury with gentle care. Seeing his concern and thoughtfulness, Yumi's heart warmed and she felt a deep sense of happiness. Later, during a school trip, Yumi attempted to secretly take photos of Hong, but a classmate noticed and shouted, drawing attention to her actions. Hong approached, took her phone, and instead of scolding her, cheekily snapped a selfie with her. "I thought you'd throw my phone into the water," Yumi exclaimed, half relieved, half amused. Hong chuckled, "I'm not that bad, don't think so poorly of me." Their laughter and light-hearted banter drew them closer, though Kong observed from a distance, feeling a pang of jealousy. The trip continued, and as the group trekked along a mountain path, Yumi slipped dangerously close to the edge. Hong reached out instinctively but froze, memories of a childhood tragedy flashing vividly before him. A similar incident had befallen his sister long ago. She had slipped from a mountain path and he had been unable to save her. That memory paralyzed him momentarily. Just as danger loomed, Kong arrived at the right moment and caught Yumi, averting disaster. He scolded, "Hong, how could you be so careless? What if something had happened to her?" Hong, still shaken, said nothing to Kong, only whispering a soft apology to Yumi before stepping back. Despite these tense moments, Hong and Yumi spent the rest of the trip enjoying themselves. Their friendship deepened with each shared laugh, each supportive gesture, and the trust they began to place in one another. Months passed in this manner, with their bond gradually growing stronger. Then came the school's final examinations, a source of stress and anxiety for every student. Yumi, worried about the possibility of poor results jeopardizing her chances at a good university, sat silently overwhelmed. Hong approached, noticing her concern, and spoke gently, offering both encouragement and guidance. "Don't worry," he said, assuring her he would help her study every day to ensure her performance improved. Yumi's heart lifted at his words, grateful for his support. One evening, as they walked home together after a long study session, a sense of closeness settled between them. Yumi felt a quiet happiness, knowing that Hong no longer scolded her harshly and genuinely wanted to help her succeed. She silently thanked him for his patience and kindness. That night, Hong was haunted by a frightening dream. Memories of his sister's fatal fall from a mountain resurfaced, reminding him of the guilt and helplessness he had carried for years. The next day, during another task at school involving putting up a poster, Hong's past trauma momentarily disrupted him. He lost his balance, shaken by the memories of his sister's accident. Seeing this, Yumi steadied him, asking gently, "Are you afraid of heights?" Hong admitted quietly, "Yes, a little." Together, they completed the task safely, further cementing the bond that had begun as friendship and was quietly transforming into love. Meanwhile, Hong's parents reminded him to let go of past guilt, encouraging him to embrace life without being weighed down by earlier tragedies. That evening, Hong perused Yumi's notebook, where memories and personal notes reminded him of their shared childhood connection. He recalled how his sister had introduced him to a kind and bright girl years ago, his best friend at the time. To verify the truth, Hong hurriedly arranged to meet Yumi. The separation had been caused by his family moving to another city, which explained the years of lost contact. Upon meeting, Yumi led him to her secret spot, sharing her feelings and experiences. She opened up about a significant childhood incident involving a girl named Jia, who had selflessly helped Yumi during a critical eye operation, gifting her a necklace as a token of friendship. Seeing the necklace, Hong instantly realized that Yumi was indeed his childhood best friend. When it was Hong's turn to share, he admitted his deep-seated fear of heights. His confession revealed a painful memory. His sister's accidental fall from a mountain had worsened her pre-existing heart condition, ultimately leading to her death. Hong carried the guilt of that day with him, unable to forget the tragedy. Yumi, understanding the gravity of his experience, felt a mixture of empathy and sorrow, imagining the loss he had endured. Summer vacation came and went, and as the new school term began, Yumi eagerly anticipated seeing Hong again. Hong greeted her with playful teasing, commenting on subtle changes in her appearance which made Yumi laugh nervously as she asked friends if she had really changed. A new transfer student appeared in their class, Kong, who deliberately seated himself behind Yumi, creating tension and a sense of competition in her life. Despite Kong's attempts to engage her, Hong remained vigilant, protecting Yunmi's focus on her studies while maintaining his role as a supportive friend and companion. Kong offered Yunmi a joke book and she hesitated, fearing it was a ploy to involve her in completing his homework. Hong, observing the interaction, quickly intervened, asserting that any potential distractions from her studies would be removed under his watch. "I teach you," he explained, "so anything that might harm your progress I'll take care of." Yunmi, resigned yet grateful, returned to her studies. She felt safe knowing Hong would not allow external influences to disrupt her learning, and she worked diligently, appreciating the quiet protection and guidance he provided. Hong, in turn, went home that night satisfied, having ensured that Yunmi's focus remained intact, proud of her diligence and dedication. Over time, routines and familiar paths change, even the ones you once thought would remain the same forever. Hong and Yunmi had long shared the daily ritual of walking together to the bus stop. It had been a comfortable companionship, unspoken yet deeply reassuring, each step a silent affirmation of friendship and trust. But life has a way of shifting, subtly and unexpectedly, and this once steady rhythm was soon disrupted. A new presence emerged, Kong, mischievous and bold, now accompanying Yunmi on the same walk. Their dynamics changed instantly, and Hong, who had once been her constant companion, now found himself competing silently for Yunmi's attention. At the bus stop that morning, both boys said their goodbyes to Yunmi, each carrying their own mixture of emotions. Kong attempted to spark a conversation with Hong, his tone casual, testing boundaries, but Hong's icy indifference cut through him like a blade. Without acknowledging Kong, Hong simply turned and left, his composure unshaken, leaving the younger boy simmering with frustration. The following day in class, the tension escalated. Kong, unable to resist causing minor chaos, kept tossing scraps of paper at Yunmi, a persistent irritation. Finally, she turned to him exasperated. "What's your problem?" she asked. Kong grinned, shrugging nonchalantly. "Nothing, just want to play a little game with you," he said. Yumi's eyes widened, torn between amusement and irritation. All the while, Hong watched silently, jealousy simmering beneath his otherwise controlled exterior. He could feel the sting of watching Yunmi laugh, interact, and entertain Kong's antics, interactions he used to enjoy alone. Eventually, Hong's patience snapped. He picked up one of the flying pieces of paper and flung it back toward Kong, his voice sharp yet tinged with humor. "This is a classroom, not a playground," he scolded, his tone a mix of authority and protective concern. Turning to Yunmi, he added teasingly, "If you want to play games, play with me. It might sharpen your mind more than this childish nonsense." Yunmi laughed softly, feeling the warmth of his attention, and Kong, though stung, had no power to intervene while Yunmi was beside Hong. Even Kong's presence couldn't diminish the connection forming between them, and nearby, Kong's companion Kang observed quietly, jealousy flickering across his expression. Later, Yunmi had to fulfill her responsibility of cleaning the classroom. She playfully asked Hong for help, but he waved her off, claiming he had to attend another class. Left alone, Yunmi decided to infuse her task with some levity, dancing lightly as she swept the floor. Hong, on his way out, caught sight of her and something inside him paused. He stopped to watch her dance, unable to hide the genuine enjoyment it brought him. But in a sudden mishap, Yunmi lost her footing and stumbled. Hong's reflexes kicked in instantly. He reached out, steadying her before she could fall. Yunmi looked up, slightly breathless, and smiled. "When did you get here? Did you see me dance? If you did, tell me, how was it?" Hong's eyes narrowed playfully and he quipped, "It looked like a crazy girl hopping around without reason." Yunmi's cheeks flushed with a mixture of embarrassment and disappointment at his bluntness, though in truth, she secretly delighted in his attention. The next day brought a new series of unusual incidents. The classroom light malfunctioned dramatically. When the teacher attempted to turn it on, it exploded, showering the room with shards of glass. In the chaos, Hong instinctively tried to shield Yunmi, but his shirt button caught in her hair, creating an awkward and slightly embarrassing scene. Flustered, he extricated himself quickly, leaving Yunmi momentarily mortified. However, the small token, the button, remained in her hand, a subtle and silent emblem of care and affection. Yunmi blushed repeatedly as she held it close, reflecting on the strange and delicate emotions attached to objects that belong to those we care about. That same week, news arrived that Jin, Hong's longtime friend, had returned from abroad. Hong left class immediately to meet her, and Yunmi, curious, asked a classmate about this girl. Learning that Jin was Hong's best friend, Yunmi felt a twinge of sadness and unease. She hadn't realized that her growing feelings for Hong were now complicated by someone else's presence in his life. Hong skipped class the next day as well, deepening her restlessness and sense of uncertainty. Unable to contain herself, she followed him along with a friend and witnessed Hong speaking with Jin. When he returned to class, Yunmi asked cautiously, "Who was that girl?" Hong's answer was straightforward. Her name is Jin. She used to study here, then went abroad, and now she's back. Yumi nodded silently, a knot of jealousy forming in her chest. In the following class, Jin approached Hong and handed him a gift, conversing easily with him. Yumi watched, her heart aching, unable to suppress the swirl of emotions inside her. Kong, ever the meddler, approached her and tried to coax her outside, but she refused, overwhelmed by her feelings. Her patience reached its limit and she finally asserted herself, telling Jin firmly, "This is my seat," as the other girl moved away. That night Yumi lay awake, anxiety and sadness keeping her from sleep. Her mind replayed every interaction, every subtle exchange until exhaustion overcame her, and she slept fitfully. The next day in class, still groggy from lack of sleep, Yumi dozed off. The teacher scolded her harshly. "You resolve this problem yourself and show me results." Before she could act, Jin solved the problem effortlessly, inciting further frustration from the teacher directed at Yumi. Despite these small humiliations, Yumi's determination did not falter. When news of the inter-school knowledge competition arrived, she saw a new opportunity. She wanted to participate alongside Hong, motivated by the promise of 2 tickets to a 5-star hotel for the winners. The following day, the teacher announced that Hong and Jin would represent the school, leaving Yumi momentarily disheartened. Her friend pleaded on her behalf and the teacher agreed to a preliminary quiz to determine who would advance. Yumi felt a surge of hope. This was her chance to prove herself. After class, she approached Hong, asking if he could guide her regarding the quiz questions. Hong, ever protective yet playful, provided a few carefully selected questions. "Thank you," Yumi said sincerely, touched by his support. Her friend, skeptical of the small selection, teased her, but Yumi ignored the comment and focused on preparation. On the day of the competition, Yumi and Jin faced each other while Hong acted as the host. Yumi answered confidently at first, though a momentary lapse in the middle made her anxious. Yet by the final question, she had recovered her composure, ultimately tying with Jin. With the last answer, Yumi emerged victorious, securing the opportunity to attend the hotel experience with Hong. Jin's disappointment was palpable, and Yumi, though happy, felt a subtle guilt at winning. After class, Hong asked playfully why she had wanted to participate. "To sharpen my mind," she replied, trying to sound nonchalant. Her friend whispered teasingly that Yumi intended to have lunch with Hong at the hotel, causing her to blush furiously. That night, Yumi drifted into a vivid dream of them enjoying a romantic dinner together at the 5-star hotel. The day arrived and they walked together, excitement mingling with nervous anticipation. Though Yumi expected something overtly romantic, the dinner turned out to be calm and unassuming, filled with laughter and delicious food rather than grand gestures. The next morning, the results of the exams were announced. Yumi had improved remarkably, prompting Hong to joke, "Stop reading storybooks and you could be in the top 10. The teacher reorganized seating based on results, placing Jin next to Hong and Yumi next to a friend. Her heart sank at the proximity of Jin to Hong. Love, she realized painfully, had already taken root in her heart. As she walked near the classroom, she saw Hong laughing with Jin. The sight pierced her with a sudden, sharp ache. Jin's words to Hong, "We've been childhood friends, I always wanted us to stay together," echoed in her ears, and Yumi, overwhelmed with heartbreak, turned away silently, her feelings buried, tears threatening to spill. The morning sun filtered through the classroom windows, but despite the bright day, Yumi sat silently at her desk, her head slightly bowed, her mood heavy with a sadness she could not quite explain. The subtle weight of yesterday's misunderstandings pressed on her chest. She stared at her notebook, tracing lines with her pencil, but her mind wandered elsewhere. Hong approached quietly, carrying the unmistakable calm authority that always seemed to surround him. He leaned slightly over her desk, his eyes soft but curious. "You got this question wrong," he said gently. "Do you want me to help you?" Yumi shook her head without lifting her gaze. "No, I'll fix it myself," she murmured. Her tone was firm yet polite, and the firmness puzzled Hong. Something in her manner suggested she was intentionally avoiding him, and he couldn't help but wonder if she was upset with him or if she harbored doubts about his intentions. Her sudden distance felt like a wall between them, one that he didn't understand. "Are you thinking something bad about me?" he asked cautiously, his voice carrying a hint of vulnerability he rarely allowed anyone to see. Before Yumi could answer, Kong's mischievous voice cut through the tense moment. "What are you doing here?" he asked, leaning casually against the doorway. Yumi quickly glanced at Hong, a flicker of worry crossing her face, and replied with a slight tremble, "I'm not thinking anything about you." She quickly grabbed her bag and without a second glance walked away, leaving Hong standing there with a twinge of sadness he could not easily shake. Throughout the rest of the morning, Yumi and Kong stayed close, whispering, laughing, and sharing small jokes as if Hong didn't exist. By the time the class ended, Hong felt a pang of helplessness gnawing at him. Yumi approached him with a calm expression and said, "Give me back my storybook." Hong raised an eyebrow, a hint of annoyance flashing across his features. And why are you ignoring me like this? You're laughing and talking with Kong just fine. Yunmi's reply was as sharp as a knife, yet sincere. I will do whatever I wish, it's my personal matter, what's it to you? Hong's lips pressed into a thin line. Her defiance, her independence, and the casual disregard for his feelings cut into him more than he cared to admit. Without another word, he turned and left, leaving a trail of unease behind him. The following day, Yunmi was called to the teacher's desk. Your results have slipped, the teacher said, her tone filled with concern. When you used to sit with the monitor, your performance was much stronger. Yunmi's heart sank. The weight of responsibility, the pressure of expectations, and her own inner guilt settled heavily on her. She nodded silently, her lips pressed together, a quiet ache growing in her chest. Kong, ever the opportunist, approached her after class. Are you free this week during the holidays? He asked casually. Yunmi hesitated before answering, yes, but why? I'll come pick you up, he said with a confident grin. The weekend arrived, and true to his word, Kong appeared at her doorstep, ready to whisk her away on a day full of laughter and fun. They wandered through the park, shared small treats from a street vendor, and joked incessantly, the sunlight warming their faces as they ran, played, and laughed together. But that evening, as Yunmi returned home, she was unaware that Hong had been waiting outside her house, watching quietly. The moment she disappeared inside, Hong confronted Kong. Yunmi's grades are falling, he said, a deep concern in his voice. She should be studying, not playing around. Kong shrugged lightly, unconcerned. She was upset, I just wanted to cheer her up, don't you care that she's unhappy? Hong's jaw tightened, he hadn't realized the depth of her unhappiness. For the first time, he truly considered the reasons behind her silence and her avoidance of him. It gnawed at him, a mixture of guilt and frustration swirling inside him. The next day, Jin reminded Hong, the BMT exams are coming soon, will you take them? Hong nodded confidently, yes, we'll take them together. Yunmi overheard this and felt a surge of anxiety. When she asked Kong about the exam, he explained, it's for admission to BDS University. Her stomach twisted painfully. That university was far away in another city, meaning she could be separated from Hong indefinitely. Her heart ached at the thought of distance, at the possibility of losing him to miles of road and time. On her way home, her mind raced. She stopped by a quiet bench along the street, staring blankly into space. Will we never meet again? She whispered to herself as the leaves rustled softly in the wind, mirroring her inner turmoil. The following day at the school canteen, her friend reminded her, we should say goodbye to our monitor soon. He's moving on, you know. Meanwhile, Kong had proposed one last competition with Hong, and the two boys squared off on the basketball court. Hong, focused and competitive, was caught off guard when he was slightly injured during a jump. Yumi wanted to rush to him, but before she could, Jin appeared again, diverting her attention. Torn between concern and propriety, Yumi excused herself to the school doctor. Please, she implored, give him something for the pain. But the doctor refused, citing school rules. Determined, she ran out, fetched medicine from a nearby shop, and quietly placed it on Hong's desk. When he discovered it, his eyes softened with gratitude. Thank you, he said quietly, glancing at the marks on her forehead. What happened to your head? Nothing serious, she replied with a shy smile, just a little bump. Before long, class resumed, and the brief conversation ended. The next day, rain poured heavily. Kong and Yumi played outside, laughing in the downpour, oblivious to Hong, who followed silently, unnoticed. Yumi's happiness in the rain was pure and contagious, but it also led to a misunderstanding. She assumed Hong might be interested in Kong, while Hong worried that Yumi was drawn to Kong. Each misread the other's intentions, and the distance between them grew. That evening, Hong called, I'll take the exam quickly, then go abroad. Can we meet? Where shall we meet? Yumi asked. I'll wait outside the bookstore, Hong replied. Yumi dashed into the storm, hopping to meet him, but her phone died midway and Hong, at a different location, was unable to reach her. By the time they realized the miscommunication, Yumi had left. Both stood alone in the rain, hearts heavy, separated by fate and circumstance. The next day, Yunmi's concern for Hong bubbled over into a message. I wish you topped the whole class. Hong read it, smiling despite his aching body from yesterday's rain. He couldn't meet her in person but felt the warmth of her care deeply. Later, Kong's question struck Yunmi in a different way. Do you like someone? Yes, she admitted softly, a blush rising to her cheeks. Is it Hong? Kong pressed. She nodded, yes, I love him very much. Kong's expression darkened and her heart ached for the complexity of the situation. Meanwhile, Hong struggled with the thought of leaving Yoonmi behind. The exam approaching meant he could be sent far away, and the thought tormented him. Determined, he deliberately sabotaged his own test, erasing answers and ensuring failure for the sake of staying close to her. Meanwhile, Yoonmi, feeling the same tension, decided she must give him a gift before he might leave. She carefully selected something meaningful, arranging a small farewell event with her friends, ensuring the memory would be cherished. Hong attended, unaware that her gift had already touched him deeply. Their time together at the small gathering was filled with laughter, songs, and heartfelt memories. Hong performed, and Yoonmi was reminded of all the moments they had shared, the quiet joys, the small gestures, and the laughter they had shared. When the event ended, Yoonmi handed Hong her gift. "Best of luck," she said softly, unaware that he had no intention of leaving. Hong smiled, clarifying, "What you were thinking about me and Jin is completely wrong. She's just a classmate." Relief flooded through Yoonmi, dissolving all the misunderstandings that had built up over weeks. That night, Yoonmi returned home, overwhelmed with emotion. She fell on her bed, laughing and crying at once, lost in the depths of love that had consumed her. The next morning, she walked into class, anxiously searching for Hong. Her heart leapt when he entered, unharmed, smiling gently at her. The teacher, surprised, asked, "Didn't you go abroad?" Hong shook his head. "No, I didn't pass the test." Yoonmi's heart soared. Finally, the fear of losing him dissipated. Their eyes met, smiles exchanged, and in that moment she knew her wish had come true. Her love was back and her dream fulfilled. The school announced seating changes, allowing Yoonmi to sit closer to Hong. Their daily interactions returned, and each small gesture, glance, and word reinforced their bond. Hong's attempts to interfere were gently deflected by Yoonmi, who now knew where her heart truly lay. As the final exams approached, all the students focused intently. A cheating incident occurred, and unfortunately, Hong was wrongly accused. Yoonmi, confident of his innocence, sought Hong's help. Together, they reviewed security footage and cleared Hong's name, restoring harmony in the classroom. Exams came and went. Results were announced, and Yoonmi had improved greatly. Hong's mother scolded him for not going abroad, and Yoonmi realized that Hong had stayed behind for her. Later, discovering that Hong was her long-lost childhood best friend brought a new depth to her feelings. At last, Yoonmi confronted Hong, asking why he had kept the truth hidden. He explained softly, "I didn't want you to be sad after hearing about my sister." Understanding and love flowed between them, and they finally confessed their long-held feelings. Their hearts, intertwined for years, now found their happy ending, a love nurtured through misunderstandings, trials, and the unspoken promises of childhood.